everyone, it's Tuesday, and it is time to start breaking down NFL because, as I already told you, whether you had a great week at NFL and you're excited to get back in it, or if NFL just kicked you in the dick like it often will, well, no problem. It's already on to the next week, and you should be looking forward to it, and that's what me and my boy Tambo are going to be doing for roughly the next 45 minutes to an hour. Make sure to hop in the chat, get your questions in there, anything you want to know, any hot takes you have, anything, any strategies you want us to talk on, because me and Tambo are much more about the process than a lot of other people in this industry. So hang around, enjoy the show, and let's get going. Tambo, how are you doing today, you mother father?
I'm doing good, man. Excited to be here on your channel with you. Love doing the show last week. Got a ton of great feedback. Lots of people reached out. They're hoping to see more. And I think some people in the chat just found out this is going to be all season. We did say it, but if you're just finding out now, all season long, every Tuesday this time, going to be good. 12, Lord's time zone. I got you.
Tambo, don't you know YouTube viewers are just like the high schoolers I used to teach? You have to say something 27 times before it sticks with them once. So the fact that we said this will be all year, not a chance more than 3 people understood that last week.
Yeah, we'll get them next season.
Yeah, by next season, they'll be programmed in. They'll be like, okay, I think I get it now. I think I get it. So new guy, I'm the Degenerate 75. I'm a DFS content creator who focuses on golf and football, maybe another sport to come, but we'll see about that. And I'm much more about the process. If you're just here for like my top 5 core plays, you're not going to get them, bro. You might want to fuck off now, but I do think that you're going to get a lot of good information that's going to get those juices flowing, because on a Tuesday, you shouldn't already be making your decisions for Sunday, but you should definitely be letting some of those ideas roll around. If you find you like the cut of my jib, check out that schedule. I go live almost every day. I never fucking sleep. So if you like NFL, if you like college football, if you like PGA, there's my schedule. Check it out. If not, you're a donkey dick, and I don't care about you. Also, if you haven't heard, the big guy is not a poor. I'm going to be giving away Millionaire Maker tickets simply just by hitting the like button today. If you get a question in there, and for every 100 likes we get, I'll build a Millionaire Maker ticket with you this Sunday. We will split up 50-50. Me and actually one of the winners this last week, we finished like 800th in the Millionaire Maker, which isn't that great until you really think about it. That's like in the 99.95 percentile, right? I think it only won like $200, but fuck that. You know what? We had a little bit of a sweat because it just takes one asshole to kill your Millionaire Maker dreams. You know what I'm talking about, Tambo?
I definitely know what you're talking about. They happened to me just last week and probably happens every week to me. So we'll see. Gonna get it one day, though. We're excited for this next one.
It's gonna happen. All right, I want to start. Speaking of Millionaire Maker, world-class transition from a fucking rookie to the YouTube scene. Degenerate 75. Here is the Millionaire Maker ticket. It's kind of small, but I think you guys can see it up there. This is Sports King 101, who won a cool $1 million with 5 entries in the Millionaire Maker, which I know a lot of you are like, see, so I should take my $100 and just play 5 lineups in the Millionaire Maker. Okay, you can do that. You really can. And there is a chance that you could, fucking hit the lottery. But there's also a chance you're going to burn through your $100 every week and be like, I never win at DraftKings. So I don't know if this is the most sustainable way to do it. Tambo, have you seen this guy's lineup, or do you need me to read it off to you?
No, I've seen it. Analyzed it yesterday. I think it's better than most are saying about it in this case, but I'll let you host it and take it away. In general, I actually don't have much of a problem with it. I'll get your thoughts and I'll throw mine in at the end.
What concerns me is like people shitting on this lineup. I think this lineup makes total sense. Daniel Jones is a guy that 2 or 3 times a year is going to break the slate. That's just what that donkey dick does. And trying to stack him with his roulette of receivers, I just hate. So go put him with Saquon, who catches balls out of the backfield, and his only legitimate consistent pass catcher, well, so we're expecting, and Darren Waller, right? And then, go get the Nico Collins, Zach Moss correlation. That makes sense. Go run a Rachaad White, who I thought was the best 5K running back. That guy's fucking electric. And then pair him up with the defense, which correlates nicely. And then go get a very low-owned Christian Kirk that nobody wants to play because he, sucked week 1. I love everything about this lineup. Okay, yes, he could have put Saquon in the super flex so he had more freedom to, late swap. But I don't think this guy's fucking thinking about that. I think he had his baby and he was rolling with it, and he wasn't giving much consider to late swap. You agree with that?
I agree 100% with that. He was definitely just going to leave it as is either way. So while it is a minor discrepancy that people will look at, I think that's just fine when you talk about a guy throwing $100 and getting the job done. But for me, it was also the week 1 thing that we talked about last week where people overreact. Well, what happened to Daniel Jones and co in week 1? They got curb stomped 40-0. Bounce back with them. Not going to play wide receiver roulette with his options there. I'm just going to go with Barkley and Waller. And I know some people said, don't stack them with Barkley. They've had plenty of good games together in the past where he just checks it down to Barkley and Barkley drags him along, or they both score. This is pretty much the whole end zone wrapped up when you have Jones, Barkley, and Waller. The mini stack in that other game, I think it was you and I talking about on this very show last week. We talked about that Indy-Houston game. That, look, it may not get to 50 points. In this case, it actually did have it. They did have a really good game. Anthony Richardson started out strong and then fell apart. Well, he got injured, I should say. But either way, they still kept the game going. But you don't have to have all the points to have two guys in a mini stack. Get there. Loved Rachaad White and the Buccaneers. And again, overreaction, didn't play Calvin Ridley with the price bump off of week 1, went to Christian Kirk and said, you know what, he'll probably bounce back and get in there. And then if you're not going to play Kelly Chalk, throwing in Keenan Allen just made a ton of sense up against that tough Tennessee defense and the run defense there.
And now the dude's a millionaire. What a time to be alive. Sports King 101. All right. Let's let's just talk on seeing if I'm going to shit on that guy for only putting, I assume he only played 5 lineups and they were all in the millionaire maker. Do you have any contests, like go-to contests that you think are just like sneaky good? Like for me, I just love like this $10 10 max that they offer, the $40 10 max. Like those are so sustainable, like such good, well-structured contests that are sustainable for people to play in week over week. Just like, of course, Mayo's contest, the $15 3 max with no rake is obviously the absolute nuts. But is there any that you always go to that like you would want to sell people on?
Yeah, I think it just depends on your bankroll. It's a little bit different in that sense. Like I don't, looking at it like the $15 screen pass, but it's even pretty top heavy. I like to play this. For example, for me, I don't play the Wildcat. It's 333. I play 3 lineups. It's 450 instead of 333, but I go in that 3 max with 100K up top and the smaller field. I like something like that as a little more, even if I was only going to play the 2, one or the other for my $300, either put the 333 or play 300. I would do that. But I think a lot of people are playing with, smaller bankroll, getting started, needing something newer. I think I always side on the err on the side of more lineups, the better. Again, I think you should always have your single entry so you're practicing for that, because if you do win a ticket, how do you handle that? If you do get into a live final, how do you handle that? But I like playing like if I could do this, the $1 20 max, the $3 20 max I could play, like that's fine by me. Anything like that, the $5 3 maxes, all of those are really good tournaments to start out in. If you got the smaller bankroll, if you have a little bit sort of that mid-size bankroll, mixing in the $50 single entry, the $100 single entry, the smaller $20 3 maxes, things like that, I think those are all really good tournaments to play and all have pretty balanced structures and are still going to be big time bankroll changers for you on a week-to-week basis. And then last thing, get in the satellites. Can't talk about enough. I know they're winner take all, but allocate some of your bankroll towards that. That's how you see people when you say, oh, how did they get their first win? A lot of times that's what it's from. You get into a $100 tournament or to a 333, get your first big score, and then it just goes from there, and there's a ripple effect. So I think the satellites are overlooked, something I definitely try and get people into quite a bit.
I made a point on the Saturday stream where I told people, don't always pick your contest and then pick your player pool. Pick your player pool and then pick your contest. Like, say it's a week where you love 3 or 4 or 5 stacks, right? Or there's a lot of correlation plays or one-offs that you want to play and you want to get access to those guys. Well, then you're probably much better playing a bunch of lineups at a smaller denomination, right? Whereas if you go into the week saying, like, I'm all in on a Josh Allen stack, that's the only stack you want to play, well, then maybe you're better spending, doing a higher entry, fewer volume contest, like a single entry or a 3 max or a 5 max or something like that. So I'm telling you, really give some thought to how many guys you like and then go pick your contest. Don't pick your contest and then go try to force guys in that you don't necessarily like, but you need to have more players in your player pool. Are you with me on that one?
Yeah, I definitely am. You got to be doing that. And even nowadays with all the buzzwords and things coming out around the Sims, that's what people are forgetting. Even if you're not talking about Sims, we're not going there right now. I'm just saying is what happens is people are not realizing people are building different lineups for different field sizes, right? That's part of it. ETR just came out with ownership with a bunch of for different tournament styles and stuff. Like the industry is starting to adapt to that more. We're trying to get ideas over at Ship It on ways to innovate and be different, but that's definitely what some people are doing. And then I see in the chat too, I know you take questions at the end, but I thought this was a good one. My philosophy, my new, people are calling them now Tamboisms, but I've always said it's not who you play, it's how you play them. My new one though, that I'm sticking with, if you play lighter, play tighter. And all that simply means is if you're going to have, if you're only playing like for this guy, he had 5 lineups. I looked this up yesterday on a review show, 5 lineups. I'm never going to say, I'm not the guy when you're using 5 lineups to say, oh, he was 60% on Daniel Jones. That's the facts. 3 out of 5 lineups is 60%, but we're not talking about a real full-on player pool here. He's chosen 5 lineups in a 150 max. In a 3 max, I'll touch on that in a second. I'll get to it. But I just think in general, if you're only going to play a smaller number of entries in a tournament with a bunch more entries where the field can have a lot more than you, I know it's not what we recommend. It's not our advice we would give. But if you're going to do it anyway, like this guy is sitting on the toilet making 5 lineups on a Sunday, probably. That's all I'm saying is I would get around just sticking to what you're going with and roll it. Run a tighter pool and get after it. Nick asked about in the 3 max how I would handle it. I would look to have 2 very similar, maybe some core pieces in there and then build off of that. And then 1 go off the wall. You only have 3 to work with. You can commit to all 3. I know people that do that. I know people that say I'm going to run 1 this way, 1 that way. I just want 1 to have a shot. It's to each their own. I do prefer, though, if you play lighter, to play tighter, and that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, and I before we jump on to the stone here, I do want to just say one more thing. Like overall, my week, I thought I really nailed it. Like I was on a low-owned Geno stack. I really liked that game because everybody's like, "Oh, he's missing his tackles. He could never have a good game." Dude threw for like 325 and 2 touchdowns, so that was a very good stack. I think he was the second or third highest scoring quarterback on the slate. And then I really liked a Brock Purdy stack because I thought the Rams could push them, and the Rams definitely did push the 49ers to score. And I had great one-off pieces, played a ton of Christian Kirk, played a ton of James Cook. And but then at the end of the day, I still only got back like 40% of my money. And I think this is an important thought. And I got to get your opinion on this. Whenever you feel like you've picked your stacks well, your correlations well, and your one-offs well, you still go look, and if you just have one or two assholes in your lineup, the upside of your lineup is maybe a 90 percentile finish in a GPP. And a 90 percentile finish is almost always going to be a min cash, right? The only way you're ever going to hit big in a GPP and what you're playing to hit is to get those 99.99 percentile, and that usually involves having 0 assholes in your player pool. No Isaiah Pacheco's, no Luke Musgraves, right? And those are the kind of guys. It just takes one guy to sink it, and then people overreact and say, I lost again. But like when I go look at my process and the plays that I went with in my stacks, I feel really good about it, even though the results weren't there. Because sometimes the results aren't there because your fucking process sucked. Sometimes the results aren't there simply just because you had an asshole or two, or maybe a chalk piece went off that you didn't play. Are you buying this, that like you can have a losing week and still have had a good process and been on point with everything you did?
100%. Yeah, literally just happened to me last week. I was all over a bunch of these good spots. It was in the 555 Millie Maker. I had 4 tickets for it. I added 6 more. I think I played 10 or 11. I think I might have added the greedy extra. I was like, I'll stop at 10. I think I added the 11th. But the point being, and I only got back like half my money. 4 of the tickets was like $2,400 or whatever. So it was not the worst week in that. But either way, it was one of those things where I was crushing all morning. It was just one guy away. It was Ridley instead of Kirk in the wrong lineup. I had Kirk in a different one. And then it was, Kelsey, who got there a little bit later on and was in some of those winning lineups, but I was trying to pay up. And I felt like that was good when a lot of people were paying down in those lineups with those stacks. It was all kinds of little plays like that where it's just like you feel so good. I had White. I had the Buccaneers defense. I had the Allen stacks with Gabe Davis and like Knox and things like that. I had some of these good pieces. Richardson gets injured on me. Like I feel like this is how I was looking at it. Was the process good? I think yes. I don't want to be results oriented, but you still have to trust the progress. Another line that I use and try and talk about all the time. It's like you got to see where you put yourself. If you're not putting yourself in the position very often, you probably got to go back to the process and dig in, find something, do something different contest selection, maybe drop down in stakes while you're trying to work on stuff and get better at it, whatever that might be for you. We talk a lot about that at shipitnation.com. We have a course going on that 4 hours process course, breaking all that stuff down. You get it for free when you sign up. Use promo code DGen75, get 10% off. But what I'm saying is you also have to trust the progress. Sometimes people come 12th and they're hard in like a 1,000-person single entry and they're so hard on themselves and they're like, oh, if only this. It's hard not to think about if this, then that. You win all the money. Yes. But what did you do well to get yourself to finish in 12th? That's where you can say the progress is there. I'm putting myself in these spots to be able to get lucky. Now I'm going back to the table next week with that confidence and that momentum. It may not happen next week, just so you know, but you're in the right position now to start moving forward and feel better about your process.
And so often I get this question, well, how do I know if my process is broke? Well, let me just go ahead and tell you. If you played Anthony Richardson as your solo quarterback, that guy was on pace to break the slate. He had like legit 15 points in the first quarter and was going to just run away with this slate, and then he got injured. There's nothing you can do about that. But if you're playing like Zach Wilson as like your only stack on the entire slate, you need to really reevaluate your shit, okay? Because that was a really not good play, and it didn't work out well for you. So understand whenever there's like the variance and the bad luck that can happen with injuries and stuff like that, and then understand when you're just picking guys in really bad spots and going in too hard on them. That would be my biggest advice on if your process is broken or not.
And oftentimes too, guys, people are looking for diamonds in the rough. You and I talk a lot about this when we do our PGA shows. It's like, oh, if I get this $6,500 golfer, I got a feeling about Preston Summerhays this week. It's like, that's awesome. And I will say, if you're going to do that, commit to him. Like if you're going to play him, then get him in your lineup. So if you're right, it actually pays off or has a chance to. But when people just sneak in a little bit of this guy, a little bit, and it happens in football too. If I get that wide receiver and that wide receiver and that wide receiver, I got all my bases covered because I got the cheap guy that'll break the slate. Well, you don't have enough lineups with them to break any slate. You're going to have like one lineup with each of them, where if you get it right, you're still going to have those other, like you said, 1 to 2 assholes who screw it up anyway for you. So you didn't commit to it. Stop picking 3 or 4 diamonds in the rough. Put the same diamond in the rough that you truly believe in all of them, and then you have more outs to the top or more ways to get that right if it happens.
Absolutely. So wait, let me just go ahead and tell you, 50% on Cam Champ didn't work out for me, but my ass is always willing to go down in flames. I'll play that fucking loser again. I don't give a shit because I play to win. And I also don't care about losing. And when you play a 50% on Cam Champ, I can't give you any better evidence than not being afraid of losing. All right, let's start breaking down the slate, Tambo. Let's just give some thoughts on some games. I got to tell you, just off the bat, none of these, 1 or 2 games have big totals, but even some of the ones that have big totals have rather big lines, which maybe not the most competitive environment. So I think this is going to be a week where you're going to need to get really creative with your stacks, because just initially looking, none of the stacks just jumped off the page. It's like, oh shit, that's going to be a 20% owned stack. All right.
One stack, because it looks right now like the Chargers-Minnesota game, 54-point total. I think it's pretty easy to stack up.
54? How the hell? I could have swore I saw 49. Holy shit, it is 54. Jeebus. Okay. Yeah. All right. I guess people are betting the shit out of that one.
And especially to me, again, just talking out loud, this is first look. So I love this show. Actually, it's, I do a little bit more of a first look, getting to be able to see it Monday. But with yesterday, we had the 2-game slate. We had Showdown. We had all that stuff. So really looking at this now, and today just digging in first thing this morning was like Cousins, Jefferson, one of Addison or Osborne or Hawkinson, done, and then run it back with Allen or Williams or whatever you choose to do on the other side. It just looks like that's going to be the popular starting point, and maybe for good reason. It's a 54-point total, but there is a bunch of other spots on the slate. It still is only week 3. There is going to be stuff that happens and things that break your way where you would want pieces from this game, I think. But it's really hard for me at a 54 total to just stay away from it completely.
Yeah, no, I that was a big point I made to on the Discord stream Sunday. It's like don't completely avoid these high scoring games, right? Like these games with the big totals, just maybe go in there and try to get a piece of it in a way that not everybody else is doing, right? So like with the Buffalo Raiders game, right? I tried to go in there and grab Gabe Davis and go grab James Cook and stay away from the Diggs, the Josh Allen, the Dawson Knox type stacks, right? So I was trying to get access to those games because there's a reason that it has the highest total. People are going to go off in that game. So how can you get into that game and not play it the exact same way everybody else is I think turning out to be my favorite method. Don't fade these big high scoring games, but get into them and play them a way that nobody else is. That's how I like to use them.
Yeah, I know we're live and it is what it is, but I deal with these too. But the chat's saying there's quite a bit of audio glitching. Do you notice that, or do you have a fix with the editor?
Editor, get on here and fix it. Is it skipping? It's the editor. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. It might just be me having shitty internet. Let's see. Or I see it. It's in red. That's not good. Editor's over here fixing shit. I think honestly, I think it might be time to fucking upgrade the computer, which sucks because I spent a shit ton of money on this one. But I think whenever I have people on with me, and then we're doing it with low latency on the YouTubes, I think that it kind of stream latency normal. Low, I don't know. He's trying to fix it. Tell me in the chat if it's getting any better, but I see the editor trying to fix it. Let's see. Make sure our internet speed's good. Yeah, internet speed's like at 1,000 megabytes. I don't know. We're going to keep talking and just hope that it plows through.
Yeah, it might be fixed now too. I'm hearing it on my side as well, so it could have just been a lag for somebody, but someone just said, they said back up and smooth now. It's fixed now. Hopefully it's fixed. You were talking about ways to get different within a game stack, right? Like if you got a 54-point total, and I think we saw it, what was it last week? Was the Buffalo Raiders game. Again, like people were in on that game somewhat because obviously Josh Allen and the options, but then it was like you could get Gabe Davis or Knox instead of Kincaid or something, Gabe Davis instead of Diggs, other guys on the opposite side. So I think that's what's going to happen in this game, really. But I also think it's going to be how you fill out the rest of it, because typically with this type of setup, there's only so many guys you can use, and Kirk Cousins going to be pretty condensed. Herbert's side is pretty condensed as well. So it's going to be tougher if you're just not going to take these crazy shots on some of the bench guys there.
All right, let's get to the first game that I have on the slate here. Indianapolis-Baltimore. Have you heard any word? Is Anthony Richardson? I mean, those concussion things, they're not usually likely to come back. Have you heard any word if he's going to be back this week?
I didn't hear any word against it. And with the books putting up the line and everything that goes with it, it still looks like there's a possibility that he's going to be in. So I'll have to wait and see what happens. But for me, right now, showing like we don't have anything to worry about, or it's going to be a day-to-day thing, but we may hear more when the week goes on. I'll try and get a quick update, but I didn't see anything else on him.
All right. So do you have any hot takes on this Colts-Baltimore game? I mean, the 7.5 point line is not the greatest. Does Baltimore's defense concern you at all against old Indianapolis, or is Indianapolis going to sneaky get there?
This is a tough one for me. It's a mid-sized total. I'm a Baltimore fan, so a little bit biased in that sense, but I don't know. I still haven't seen enough out of these Ravens. And it just feels like we're waiting for it. Like last game was awesome. Got the win. It's a big time division game against the Bengals. Get the job done. Barely. But it's like, I haven't seen that much. And Lamar looked a lot better in game 2. But, a battle, especially if Richardson is in, we could just see a lot of running in this game from both sides. I think it'd be more interested in what's going to happen at the Indy backs. Do we go back to a guy like Zach Moss, right? Can we play him? Do we go back to Zay Flowers? Didn't really come through for anybody last week. So I think, there's pieces in here, but to me, it's more of a mini stack game as of right now, earlier in the week.
Man, I'm just telling you, Zay Flowers, 10 targets a game. He's always on the field. And they are the best thing I can tell you about Zay Flowers is they design plays for him. Like, they're actively trying to get him the ball, right? It's not like he's running routes and he just occasionally gets the ball thrown to him. They're running wide receiver screens to him. They're running reverses to him. They want the ball in that guy's hands. He is electric.
Yeah, I love the guy. Like I said, it's definitely something like that. That was one thing off of week 1. I think it was in the tidbits on Twitter. I threw it out there somewhere, but he was basically they were looking for him on week 1. They had like 6 extra designed routes for him. And then week 2 switched off of that a little bit. So a little less, but like you said, he's going to be a feature piece moving forward. And I think we're still waiting to hear on Odell. I'm not sure what's going on with him, but it sounded like he had a little something going on as well. Again, right now, I don't see much around him that says he's going to be out or anything, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
Habar says, will Lamar ever run free again? What do you think about that? Are we ever going to see Lamar just getting 10 carries and 80 yards a game ever again, or are they just done with that?
We should. He got paid, man. It's time to move. You got the paycheck already. That's the thing. It was before I understood when he was sort of waiting around and seeing if they're going to pay him or not. But now that he got the paycheck, I know people will say something about that when it comes to Joe Burrow, because since he got paid, it has not been a good scene. But for my guy Lamar, I think we should see that happen a little bit more. It could start as early as this week, but that's, again, then you'd want Lamar maybe with Zay, run it back with someone from the other side, but it's really tough. Like, you could go Lamar, Zay, Zach Moss if you want it, but I think that's, sort of the other side. I'd be more interested in Zach Moss, maybe even the Indy D going against Lamar. I'd be okay with that too.
All right, Tennessee at Cleveland. I got a hot take for you. Deshaun Watson fucking sucks. There you go. That's my hot take. What do you think?
It's so far that's valid. Fair. Last night did not look good again. Obviously, he was owned like mega in the 2-gamer and all that stuff. And, even with Chubb out, Ford looked good coming in. Don't want to talk too much about that Chubb injury. It was a sad scene for him. Obviously, sucks to see injuries like that. And then, for everybody that played him, 84% of the field or whatever. Nick said Deshaun needs a massage. We won't go there either, maybe. But one thing I will say, we're looking like we're going 3 weeks in a row with chalk running back against Tennessee defense. It's 0 for 2. So far now, Jerome Ford, it sounds like they said today, Stefanski mentioned feature back.
Yep.
He's going to be the guy. They'll look to add somebody else just because to fill a slot. But one interesting piece about that was people said Kareem Hunt. I thought about it right away too, but then other people said kind of doesn't make sense. They didn't even want the guy in the first place. I know he knows the system, and now they had Chubb, now they don't. But it is kind of true when you think of it from that perspective. They definitely did not want
I'm sure they burnt
Hunt.
a bridge there. Whenever you can't get those negotiations done, I bet both sides were probably fucking over each other by that time. Like, they're not trying to mend that.
But Hunt might still want the paycheck too, right? He's got to get back in there. So we'll see. But I definitely don't know. Like, for me, tough to go against it. The teams are passing at like a 70% clip against this defense. So that's the only interesting tidbit, is that Watson now could become a bit of leverage in that sense, and also be, coming off the overreaction of the Monday night game where it's like, I'm not going to go back to him, low total, all those factors. There could be a situation here, Amari Cooper a little bit healthier maybe, all those things that you could go here, but it's not my favorite to start the week.
Amari was definitely being limited a lot last night, right? So I think that, he came back from the injury, but he was not playing 100% of the snaps. And Amari Cooper is a guy that if he's not going to be out there enough, like, it makes it hard to play him.
Yeah, 5,700 price tag there. We'll have to see as the week goes on what they do with them. But if not, Elijah Moore, 4,700. Peoples-Jones, 4,100. We can see some stuff here. Traylon Burks last week getting some action as well. So we'll have to see what goes on with him. But that
was another guy I played, and he got that huge bomb and got tackled to 2. I was like, mother, father, because I think he was like legit 2% owned.
And started so hot and then just did nothing after.
And then just disappeared. Yeah. All right. If the Falcons are ever going to get involved in a shootout, if this piece of shit offense can ever have a big game, surely it's got to be at Detroit, where I believe all games at Detroit have a minimum requirement of 55 points scored. I believe that is a requirement by the NFL. So is there any chance a Desmond Ridder stat could ever get there, or is this just a time that Bijan finally scores 50 points in a game?
Gosh, I would lean on the Bijan side before I lean on the Ridder side. Like, we've been talking about this for even last year. I think it was the live final. There was people pushing it in that week. It was Atlanta versus New Orleans, I remember, and people were playing Ridder with London because London was popular. You can just add a cheap Ridder. Ridder's still cheap. You can still add him if you want. Man, unless you got another hot take like your crystal ball last week with Daniel Jones and Barkley or something, I don't know how you're going to do it with this guy this week because it just sucks. London, very good. Pitts should be good. Pitts was bad even before with Mariota and everything too. He was having a rough outing, but once joining into the NFL but in general, these are talented players. Yep. It's just, I think some of that brings it down. And then typically all they want to do is run. And when you've got Bijan, you got Algier, they set CPAT again last week. He was inactive late again. So I don't know what's going on there with that. It's not like they need him, but it does feel like a better spot just to get in on Bijan at 7,800 than trying to figure anything else out there. But the Detroit side becomes more interesting depending on what happens with David Montgomery here. Sounds like it could be more of an issue than originally expected.
Man, why will okay, so I guess DraftKings is just being smart because they priced Jahmyr Gibbs at 6,600, which if David Montgomery's going to play, is just too expensive. So do you think that they were factoring in that David Montgomery could be limited or out this week when they put Gibbs up there at 66?
I think they were. And then also today, the name is on the tip of my tongue, the guy they brought up. There's a Z in the name. What's his name? Damn, they brought somebody up today anyway, so it looks like it's going to be out. And then a couple of reports came out, like could be up to a couple weeks. It was day-to-day by some. Zonovan Knight was the guy that I was thinking of. They just brought him up.
USC guy, I believe. Which
is the expectation that it means it's going to be, David Montgomery out. I don't know what you would side with, though, a 4K Zonovan Knight or a $6,600 Gibbs. Because, man, Detroit wants to run it, and we know this, but they never seem to want to take the wheels off of anything. We saw it all last year with Swift. Gibbs is going to get his. He's going to get worked in. Is this the week? I don't know. It feels like a guy that we're going to say that every week until it is the week, but it might not be week 3. That's the difference I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, I would love a Detroit. I want to play some Detroit. By the way, if Montgomery's out, I'm definitely playing Gibbs. I don't give a shit. But once again, the same problem I had with Green Bay stacks last week. I just don't think Atlanta can push anybody. I think their offense is hot garbage.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right.
Here is, I don't know. I think people are going to overreact to New Orleans looking rather shitty last night and forget that this offense does have some ability. I still think this offense can be good. I just think the Carolina Panthers are a sneaky good defensive team, right? And that game was really slow and sloggy last night. This might be one of my sneaky shootout games, this Saints versus Green Bay, because I'm kind of a buyer in Green Bay. 2 weeks in a row, they've kind of got it done offensively, and I know New Orleans has the firepower to hit some big plays too. Any chance that this game ends up 31-28 and you're going to want to have 4 pieces from it?
I don't know, but it may not have to because I don't know if you noticed this, but they didn't adjust any of the prices. I don't know what these other guys need to do. Jaden Reed stayed at 3,800, barely went up. Luke Musgrave, if you wanted him last week, everybody wanted him. I think Hayden Hurst was doing fine last night for at least a little bit there. You can go play Musgrave at 3,300 when this week nobody wants him.
Yep.
AJ Dillon, 5,700. No, he didn't come through last week. But I guess my point would be there's seemingly a bunch of options in this game for cheap that maybe if it doesn't even get to that total, you still get the mini stack going on here where you can still get to those. Jordan Love, what's his output the last 2 weeks? It's been solid, 23 and 20 for DraftKings points, just doing just fine. So not saying to go back to just because of last week, but just in general, they're not changing the prices on these guys.
And I think Jordan Love's value only improves when Christian Watson inevitably comes back. Because to me, he is definitively their best wide receiver. I'm a big buyer on Christian Watson. So once he comes back, I think that is going to dramatically improve the value of Jordan Love. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we'll have to see. But I definitely don't hate it from some of the other spots we looked at so far, if you were going to pick one.
Now, did Houston have a functional offense this last Sunday, or was I having a dream and it was all a mirage?
Looked a lot better. Stroud looked really good, actually. And it's funny, too, because someone showed it week 1. I forget what it was, but it was he started off really strong, and then the pass attempts are there. That's kind of, I guess, what it comes down to. So last 2 weeks, 44 and 47. Price is 5,300. Tank Dell. Again, they're just, for whatever reason, the prices aren't getting, he was 32. Yeah, you're right. His price went up to 3,600. It's $400. Come on. You know what I mean? Woods, 4,400. Nico Collins only went up from 48 to 53. They're just not adjusting very much. What did Mechie end up doing? I know he was making his debut last week. Just wanted to see what he got. It looks like, doesn't have the snaps here in front of me, so I can't see it, but he only had the 1 target, 1 reception for 17. But I don't know if he's as much of a factor yet. But either way, Tank Dell looks good, just $3,600. And there's definitely pieces on the Jacksonville game. This is the one where 2 things. Let me ask you this. Is this the game that is what you just said about Green Bay, New Orleans, and actually just jumps up in the points again and the pace is up and all that? Or is this the game people think is the sneaky game, make those points, and then the game just duds out completely and maybe you only need a piece or 2 pieces from the game? Which one do you think is more likely?
I think the people just always love a Trevor Lawrence stack. He's just like one of the most top 10 quarterbacks you can get, always at an affordable price, right? And then, of course, everybody wants to run it back with Nico Collins because he's a very affordable run back stack. So I think this game gets sneaky slow, and I bet it's one of those weeks where Trevor Lawrence has like 20 points at halftime and then finishes the game with like 23 points. Like, I think they're just going to kind of lean on him in the second half.
Yeah, I agree. It could happen like that. I guess my other thing was that what if it's just like ETN and Dell that you need? Like, there's enough pace, there's enough back and forth, there's enough ways to go about it that if, I guess what I'm saying is we're early in the week, later in the week, if I'm hearing everybody being like, let's make a Stroud stack work, it's sneaky, and let's make this, well, it will still be lower owned, which could be interpreted as sneaky because technically the ownership's not as high as what you think. It's that when a lot of people get talking about it, sometimes that when it becomes the game that everybody thinks is sneaky and enough of the pieces all pick up the steam. And we see this in golf all the time as well. You talk about on your show every Wednesday, the steam plays that are later on in the week. It kind of gets that way. It's not to an ownership where I care as much as just everybody feels like it's something that it's not. And you end up finding much better spaces or places, I should say, to go. And you can use different pieces within this game, like ETN and Dell, and just cut it off or something like that.
For me, I'm definitely hoping Lawrence stacks become very popular because I've been very impressed with how involved Travis Etienne has been in the offense and the amount of volume he's getting. So if a lot of people are wanting to play a Trevor Lawrence stack, let me just come grab ETN from this game, and I'll be more than happy to just have that piece and hope he gets a touchdown or two and really kind of vultures everything from the Jacksonville passing game.
If ETN picks up steam, would you flip the other way?
Probably.
Yeah,
I never mind a Trevor Lawrence stack.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go the opposite of what everybody else does. That's been my favorite play. Everybody wanted to go Josh Allen stack this last week. All right, I'm going to go play James Cook, right? It's just whenever I see one part of a total, if everybody's going to go Herbert this week in their stacks, well, then maybe I just go grab Josh Kelly, unless Eckler is going to be back. I haven't seen that news yet. Okay, Denver, Miami, a lower total than I would have thought, especially after Denver showed some real life on offense. I mean, Marvin Mims, I don't know why they don't put that motherfather on the field more. He is electric, and he like diversifies their offense in a way they really need. But at the same time, his snap counts weren't that great, and it's still really hard to play a guy that's only probably going to get 3 targets, even though that guy could be 2 60-yard touchdowns. Is Denver's offense for real? Because if they are, you got to love them to push Miami.
I don't believe it's real, and I think the Mims thing will get overplayed because it was like 2 catches, and one of them was for a touchdown, so that obviously helps when you get the bonus, the yardage, the touchdown. He barely, like snaps-wise, wasn't crazy, and that's what I was just trying to go look up because I think he's 3,900 this week, if I see it correctly, and you go look at a guy like Reed, not to say that's repeatable with 2 touchdowns, but I mean, this is on 8 targets, 4 receptions, all this. It's much different than what we saw with another guy like Mims, but to your point, if you think he can push him, that does make it a little bit more interesting. We'll have to wait and see on Waddle. Obviously, he's in concussion protocol after that late hit, or the hit later in the game, I should say, on that game that we just watched last week there. So we'll see what happens with their offense, but this has a 48-point total. I think people will get here. You could go Tua. Tyreek always gets love. He's 9,000. There's ways to get there. Tyreek is also $300 less than Justin Jefferson on this slate. So just an interesting thing I would see there is like, I don't know where I'm going yet or how I'm getting there, but if you had a lineup with like, you could have like Cousins with Addison or Osborne with Hawkinson, but then sub in Tyreek instead of Jefferson. And it's, you're playing the same type of lineup others have, but you've got 2 Minnesota pieces in there still with Cousins, but not Jefferson, and ends up being Tyreek. I look at little things like that when building for single entry, 3 max, higher dollar, smaller field, and things like that. So I don't know. I do have interest in this game early on. I'm just not sure who it's with yet. Like Judy, 6,500. He's back now. Yep. Played last week. Fine. Wait on the Waddle information. Running backs, I'm not sure if I would go too much there. Anybody? Smythe has been pretty good. Yeah. He's 2,900 this week, so he might be popular too.
All right, we're getting the message again, editor. I don't know. Hopefully, it's not cutting out again. I don't know what's going on. I guess I need fucking Oklahoma internet. But my opinion on this game is Tyreek Hill is going to get 57 targets. That would be my guess, right? So let's keep moving on. I only see, let's see. Oh, we still got a lot of games here. So this Charger-Minnesota game, we already talked about that. So let's skip over to New England and the Jets. Boy, this just reeks of slogfest, like a game that's going to be 14-13. Yeah,
doesn't look too good to me. Stevenson is 6,700. DraftKings points. Price does matter. I'm not saying it's Josh Allen, but he's $5,400. Like you know that
when his pieces are much more stackable. John.
All right, we are having so many technical difficulties here. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna just apologize. Let's see here. We're gonna look. This is such a shit show, and I can't figure out what's going on. So this is what we're gonna do with the rest of the show. I'm gonna give away some tickets. All right, just for fucking all this. All of you that have stuck with me through this shit show, I'm giving away some Millionaire Maker tickets. But before we do, I want to sell Tambo's site because I'm a fucking idiot. It's called Ship It Nation, and they do all kinds of sports I don't do. So if you're enjoying my content, go check out MLB, NBA, MMA. NHL, they do it all, and use my code DGen75 to do it. Do you want to tell them anything about it for the people? All right, it just got better, so now's a great time to sell, Tambo.
Yeah, Ship It Nation. You set it up the top. Myself, both live finals. But someone said in the chat, like, this show is too good to be free. If you like, price is the need. Try and keep it that way for a reason.
For everyone, we know there's a ton of great sites and tools out there. That's kind of the pairing of the two of us is you can get dgen75.com, you can get shipitnation.com, still be well under $100 for all the content. Add in your college football stuff, add in the Stone, which we don't have and are excited to be partnered with DGen75 for. You add in the Showdown projections and ownership for PGA when that comes back. That's going to be in the mix where you just pair the two sites together and get plenty. But we've got a lot of tools. We've got projections, ownership, rankings, all that stuff for you guys. And the Discord is awesome. Sure, if you're in the Discord with Degenerate75, you're going to know what it's all about. But our Discord is one that a lot of people will talk about. You can hop in there. We do a ton of giveaways as well. Free shows, lots of good partnerships around the industry, but definitely the time is now to check it out. You can actually get in as low as $19, but for the thing I always say to people, you don't get the Discord with that, and Discord is key. With Degenerate75, with the code Degen75, you get 10% off. You can get your first month for just over $60, and that works out to like $15 a week. That's nothing. You get in the Discord, try it out for a month, see what you think. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think you'll love it, and then you'll come back and want to know more. So check us out, shipitnation.com. Promo code DGen75.
All right, editor, draw me 5 names. 5 names from the chat, and let's give away some 5 Millionaire Maker tickets. We didn't. Look, this is my fault. Fucking editor's gonna order me like a $5,000 computer right after this stream. So in the meantime, for all of you that have been here, Magic School Bus. There's one. Let's see. We're just gonna draw 5. We're gonna build them with me Sunday for the Millionaire Maker. So sorry for the 70 of you that have stayed around here. Fucking slapdick fest. So let's draw 5 of them. Sarah, that's my girl. I haven't seen her in a hot minute. Let's go. That's 2. All right. Now everybody's coming back. Justin Wahlberg. There you go. That's 3. Editor, keep them coming. By the way, guys, just reach out to me on Twitter, or if you're on the Discord, we'll build them Sunday for the Millionaire Maker. Just reach out to me Saturday night or something. Brant has won. And one more, editor. Hell, we might, you know what? We might just go finish this and go save this in post-production, Tambo. So maybe we go finish up these games, and then I'll get the editor to splice this shit together because I'm recording it without all the fucking choppiness, I'm pretty sure.
I think we only missed the last 2 games, right?
Yeah,
Dallas,
so
Arizona, and Chicago, KC.
Yeah, let's go knock those out. I wanted to get those in. All right, so there's 5. There's 5 of them. Ben, I didn't even see Ben one. There we go. All right, we might do another one in a minute because this has been fucking slapdick fest. All right, let's get to these last games here. Carolina and the Seahawks. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I missed that one, too. We missed all the afternoon games. You're right.
Which,
so
by the way,
I
know there's only 3 of them instead of 4, which really kind of kills your late swap strategy a little bit. So go ahead. We'll do one more, guys, once we get to the chat.
Yeah. Last night, I guess Bryce Young was at least serviceable. Geno looked a lot better last week, but he was back to his old ways, right? He was completing every pass, it felt like. So that sets up there the running backs in this game. You could see going back and forth, like Miles Sanders, Kenneth Walker. Look at it from that perspective. Metcalf, Lockett are always the same. Thielen, I'm not chasing what we saw last night with him. That was a 2-game slate play for me. Liked that. I played him on that slate. Hayden Hurst, maybe, but there's not a ton of plays that stand out to me in this one either. Those are the plays that do if I was going there. I also think you could play the defenses in this game, 26 and 3,200 respectively.
Yeah, I will warn you about Kenneth Walker. I do like a Seahawks Kenneth Walker stacked together. They correlate nicely, but Kenneth Walker, man, that guy has not exactly been a monument of efficiency, right? I know he fell into the box twice, but if you just go look at his, yards per touch, it wasn't great. It wasn't great.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit about that, but at 6,200 too, I kind of like that double stack you said there. We'll see as the values pop up throughout the week, but having Kenneth Walker with Seattle wouldn't be the worst thing, I don't think.
All right, Dallas and Arizona. You got where are we at here? This is a massive line, by the way. You hardly ever see lines this big in the NFL. Is Dallas just going to thump the shit out of the Cardinals?
I guess the question for you is, what are we doing with Pollard? Because it's 8,000, not 7,900, not cheaper. $8 grand for Tony Pollard. Did literally got robbed on so much last week, but he still had 25 attempts, 8 targets. He got all the work. I know they had Dowdle, they had Vaughn coming in. They had already got 2 of their tight ends touchdowns. So then, of course, they tried. I think it was Schoonmaker and Ferguson got in the box. So let's give Hendershot an end around here just so the whole room can say they scored touchdowns. That took away from him. But Pollard still played well into the fourth. So he looks like 8,000 this week is a good play. I just don't know how popular he's going to get as of right now. But they've got 2 other guys. They've got other options. How do you handle Pollard this week? That's the big question.
It'll be simple. If he's going to be under 10% owned, I'm definitely going to play him because this will be a great environment for him, and he is due for some touchdown regression after getting dicked over last week, right? So he's almost certainly going to be in a favorable script. So if he's going to get 20 touches and be under 10% owned, I'm 100% playing Tony Pollard. He'd actually probably become one of my more favorite plays on the slate. But maybe everybody's going to realize that he's due for some regression, and he's in a great script, and he's going to get there.
Also, 4,400 now for Dallas D. Prices are going up.
Wow, that is I would never pay $4,400 for a defense. I just can't do it. It never works out for me. All right,
or it could.
It doesn't until it does. All right, Kansas City and Chicago. This one, I think, is there any chance Chicago can push KC? Because I really want to play this game, but I think Chicago might be just dog shit.
Do we want to try Fields out here? The thing is, I said it again last week. I got talked in by one of the members to playing shout out Kim, by the way. She said, just play Kelsey with Mahomes, that game, etc. It made sense to me. I said, I never play him because it's just a roulette. You have to be all in on the guy basically to figure it out. But if you are going to play him, I did like that method. So in one of my 555s, I played I played Mahomes, Kelsey, and ran it back with Kirk. That was one of the ones I was talking about. Again, it just didn't work out, but I don't want to be results oriented on that. It was just to say, at least it made sense how it was built. But Fields, while not breaking 20 fantasy points still yet, it just still did look at least a little bit better last week, but still did he? I don't know. He didn't really rush for anything. What's your take on him? Because that's sort of the side I would be interested in. And then you can go to a DJ Moore and a Kmet and just wrap it up that way and then run it back with either one of the running backs or Kelsey and do a double tight end, or, which I don't do a lot, or just take Kmet out of it and just go Fields, Moore, Kelsey, call it a day. What's your thoughts on something like that?
I'm for it. if Justin Fields can push this somewhat, if they can get to 24 points or something like that, and he can get a rushing touchdown, maybe 2 passing touchdowns, he's going to legit be a top 3 stackable play, right? And the best thing about him is you don't have to dedicate 2 of your roster spots to shitty ass Bears. He only needs to drag one guy across the line with him, which is likely to be more Mooney or Kmet, right? And then for Kansas City, to me, they only have 2 run back options. I refuse to play the roulette at wide receiver, so give me some Isaiah Pacheco or give me some Travis Kelce, and I think you can be able to afford that if you're running a Bear stack because it's not overtly expensive, and you don't have to dedicate 2 of your wide receiver spots to the Bears, which just sounds fucking horrible, to be honest.
Yeah, Chiefs D, someone said sneaky, 3,900, still expensive though, man. Again, I don't know. But Fields takes sacks, free sacks oftentimes. So I'm sure they'll get after him quite a bit here, but it would have to make sense to build it out. Maybe you run a Pacheco and get your discount that way. He's only 5,400, and then you could pay up at D with some of the savings off of some of those mid-tier running backs. But for me, not too much interest as of right now. It does have nice slate swap potential though, because it's the only game in the afternoon that has these big options in it. So for example, wild moves can be made, but if you had Pollard in the flex and it's just too popular or something like that, you could always move him to a guy like Kelsey at 7,200 and then see if that $800 gets you something else. And it's risky, but if you need to make the pivots, there is options within this game.
All right, guys, toss some questions in there. We're going to answer questions for the next 13 minutes or until my piece of shit internet or connection starts to act up again. Editor at 12:50, let's go ahead and draw a couple more names. So, guys, get your questions in now. Me and Tambo will answer them as long as my fucking slapdick internet doesn't act up. This is what happens in Oklahoma, man. And we still got fucking, like, horse and buggies around here, guys. You want me to have fancy internet, too? Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, starting to think Stroud is becoming fantasy viable. Are you with that one, Tambo? I don't know if I can get there.
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit earlier. I think again, it's the here's the third piece then to our puzzle, because we talked about playing ETN maybe if Lawrence stacks are popular. If Lawrence stacks aren't popular, you could play him instead. But the other angle is always just play the opposite quarterback within the game, and he's at a $1,500 discount, so you could definitely do that as well. You could have like a Stroud with one of Tank Dell or Nico Collins, and then have the run back as one of the receivers or ETN, and just get all your pieces from that game, a little trio within it. Kind of how people did like Purdy, Ayuk, and then Nakua last week. You could just get away with those three. Yep. They were all pretty cheap or cheap enough. That's kind of what you could do here, depending on how you go. If it's Kirk instead of the run back instead of Nakua, and then it's Nico Collins and Stroud instead of Purdy and Debo. Little things like that where you can set it up. So I have no problem with that.
All right, Jerry Matt says, do you like mini secondary stacks being used at the running back position, or do you prefer it to be two wide receivers? So I never like my secondary correlation to be two running backs. It's just not a lot of game scripts where both running backs do well, but I don't mind a running back like Zach Moss against the Nico Collins, right? That was a run back I liked. And often I'll do two wide receiver correlations, right? So, maybe Drake London and Romeo Dobbs or whoever, right? So those are some ones I like. What say you, Tambo?
I like them all. I love a good secondary stack, and typically it depends how you're starting it off. If you're doing a full-on game stack with 5 guys from a game, like a 3-2 or something, quarterback, two options with the quarterback, 2 on the other side, you don't need to worry about it as much because you're probably already different or overstacking all that stuff. But for me, running back, you can do running back, tight end. You can do wide receiver, tight end. You can do wide receiver, wide receiver. You can do all kinds of stuff. One thing I will say about a secondary stack is I don't love too expensive guys that are receivers. For example, if you've got a Chase and a Diggs, well, it does correlate. It's not often I like that because typically for those guys, when they hit their ceiling, their quarterback's coming with them. So they're probably a part of your primary stack and not your secondary. So that would be the one thing I would say there.
And just to add on to that, I don't usually like to do a quarterback and 2 really expensive wide receivers, right? So like a Burrow, Higgins, Chase, because I mean, like, those guys between the 3 of them usually got to get you something like north of 110 points for that to really pay off, right? And that's asking a lot from a 3-man stack. So whenever I'm doing my stacks and my correlations, I don't like to just load up on all the expensive guys from one game or from one stack because you really are needing a 99th percentile performance from them to get there.
Yeah, little tidbit I'll throw in because we have, if the internet's working, but stack rankings on ShipItNation.com. I forgot to mention this earlier. A lot of stack rankings around the industry have this tool where it's like the best stacks of the week. And you're like, okay, let's go look at it. And it's Josh Allen and Diggs and Hurts and A.J. Brown and the most Chase and Burrow and all these stacks. But we have a stack rankings for that very point you just made where it's not about who are the top projected guys with them because we know any Burrow stack would show Chase and then Higgins. For us, it'll show things like Chase Burrow with Higgins, but then maybe Irv Smith because it's actually a better value stack and a way to get different in some of your single entry or even in your main MME stuff in big tournaments. It's just a tool that you can use to show you that, and then it ties in with ownership as well. So definitely one of the things you should check out.
Editor, draw me another name. We'll do another one at 12:55 also. Just for the slapdick internet, you guys are getting endless Millionaire Maker tickets because Oklahoma internet. While he does that, who's the best quarterback to double stack this week? Justin Sports, what I would say to this is know the kind of quarterbacks that need 2 wide receivers to get them there and know the kind of quarterbacks that only need 1 wide receiver to get them there, right? So what I mean by that is a lot of times rushing quarterbacks, a guy like, a Daniel Jones or a Justin Fields, guys like that, they offer so much upside with their legs that they usually can get it done just dragging 1 wide receiver there. Whereas some pocket passers, most of them, like Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, guys like that, they often need to carry 2 wide receivers across the finish line with them to get there. So to answer the question, Tambo, do you have anything about a quarterback that you love with a double stack this week?
Early look again, maybe depending on what the Waddle news comes out, I could see it be like Tua, Tyreek, but then you get some savings with Smythe or something like that, and that separates you so you still get it. And then, like I said, I could still put a mini stack of that other game. Maybe it's going to be a Chargers guy that's cheaper with one of the Minnesota guys, and I have Tyreek instead of Jefferson in that spot and have a different build altogether and don't play Kirk Cousins chalk in that build, obviously, with Tua in there. So that would be just an early thought, but I kind of like that one, depending on the Waddle news and the injury.
NFT Degenerates has won the giveaway, so reach out to me. We'll do one more at 12:57, just as a final apology for being a fucking poor with shitty fucking internet. All right, are my Week 17 game stacks between the Jets and the Browns dead in best ball? I mean, it's not great, especially if one of them's Nick Chubb. All right, Tweezy says, do you think Ford, the running back for the Browns, is a cheap player? What are your thoughts on him? I think he's going to be like 30 or 40% owned, and it's been very nice so far this year that chalky running backs in the 5Ks have not exactly punished me so far. And the only one that I remember doing well was Rachaad White, who I played, so I didn't mind that.
Yeah, Jamal Williams went down week 1 against Tennessee, no good. Joshua Kelly last week against Tennessee, no good. Like I said, teams are so far, it's the smallest sample you'll get, and it's only week 3, I get it. But teams are passing like 70% of the time against it. They know what they're up against. I think they're just leaning on it. Cleveland has a bunch of guys they can use for that. You could see it be an Njoku week. You got Amari if he's out there playing more snaps, and you hear more that he's more healthy throughout the week. Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. They just have a lot of options there. Tillman, if Amari's not going to be in or he's going to be limited. So I definitely think there's options there, but it's a tough battle to go up against for sure.
All right, Delbert says, I know you said Watson sucks, but maybe a good bounce back spot for him at lower ownership. What say you, Tambo? I'll let you handle that.
That's awesome. Good segue, because I was just speaking on that. I think that's kind of where you sometimes just have to get over it. Do I want to play him? Probably not. But if he's not going to be owned because people say, oh, he sucks off of last night, and maybe he does. But if you wanted to get in on that, you could do it for pretty cheap. Like just looking at the pricing real quick, he is 6,100. His option, like Elijah Moore, 47. Amari Cooper, 57. Njoku, 42. Like you could definitely get in on the action there, and then you have guys on that Tennessee side that we have interest in. So you could definitely get in on that stack if you wanted. The thing is lower total, all that. Maybe you don't double stack them. Maybe just play Watson and Njoku, and maybe you don't even run it back. It's Tennessee. I'm just saying, if you want to do something like that, I'd have a little more interest that way, I think, than like a game stack or a full 3-1 or anything along those lines.
All right, ETN and a Jags defense. I mean, I think those two work perfectly together. I think that's a great game environment, but surely I can't be the only one that realizes what a smash spot this could be for ETN. So I have to imagine he's going to gain quite a bit of ownership. And if he's going to get a lot of ownership, I just don't know if I ever want to trust ETN at like over 20% ownership. But if he's going to be a reasonable ownership, I like him. And yes, I do like the correlation with the Jags defense. You got any? You got a different take on that?
Jags D is expensive. I was going to say what you said is perfect, but what I also think to add is what we talked about earlier, is where if he does pick up the steam, and it already sounds like he will, just seeing the early chats and all that stuff, I think the interesting play is like Stroud with one person and ETN. You're using the chalk, not who you play. It's how you play him. People that aren't going to ETN, their first piece of idea when they go to leverage it are going to be to go Lawrence with the stack. And that works too. I'm not saying don't do it. You can do both. I'm just saying that's the first thought. I think the second level to it is to flip the side completely, still use ETN and just use the other side. Because guess what? If ETN's doing his job and you need him, the other side is going to have to be passing the ball and running their ass off and getting chased around, all that. You never know what that can lead to. And for a cheap stack on the Houston side, that can make a lot of other things work within your lineup.
And what I will say, the one nice thing I can say about Stroud is when they got down and they were in a bad game environment, he really did make some nice down the field passes, and they didn't just completely, go into a shell and become hopeless once they got behind. The defense knew they were going to pass, and he was still getting plenty of completions out there. So maybe he's one of those guys that plays better when he can just fucking go back there and sling it and not have to worry about making mistakes. Maybe there are guys, like I used to always play Mark Bulger for the Rams like 20 years ago because they were always behind in the fourth quarter, and he's just fucking slinging it everywhere like a pro. Okay, that was a really weird reference. Your favorite week 2 overreaction. You got one of these, like something that people are going to overreact to that we saw in week 2, and now you can go take advantage of that in week 3?
I guess how it's worded is like, which guy would I not trust on the other side? It's like the Ford, the Mims, those ones like where people are like, oh, they're so good now. Look what they just did. Yep. And now he's this featured, or now Mims is the man and all this. Like I would just, those are two that stand out right away that I'm not going to overreact to, that I'll be on the opposite side or looking for ways to get different within those spots.
I wouldn't mind, I'm going to look at it the other way, and I'm going to say Josh Kelly is a guy that kind of flopped on everybody, and in that game environment, I don't mind going back to him, of course, if Eckler is out, which I've not seen any news on. So maybe Eckler's going to be back, and I'm just talking out of my ass.
Same, and I like that one as well, actually. It's another way to get different within that game where you can build it up a little bit differently.
All right, let's get to some simple ones here. Is Deuce Vaughn worthy of picking up in GPPs?
I don't have interest, but
yeah, that's just.
I think it's, again, people are going to be looking for that because once Pollard gets popular, He's 4,400. I think he's the same price as who else is 4,400? I thought there was somebody else at 4,400. Maybe it's on Indy. How much is Moss this week?
Wait.
5,500, 55. So it might be, you know who I might have been looking at earlier was when I was looking at the depth chart before the Zonovan Night news. I think Craig Reynolds might be 4,400. Who's
everybody's
behind
favorite
David
Hard Knocks guy from last year.
Yeah.
Hey, editor, go ahead and draw another name for me real quick. Let's just take advantage of the good internet while we have it. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Once again, I want to apologize for the shitty fucking show. It's my fault and no one else's. I apparently need better internet or something. So we're going to keep going at least for a few more minutes. But for all of you that hung around, which, by the way, 130 of you, thank you for being fucking troopers. Okay. More questions. I'm just trying to get to some simple questions here. How about now we already answered that question.
See, but that is funny that you brought it up because that's what I asked you earlier was that question. I said, do you think this is what happens?
Yep.
And I think we're already seeing it. Enough talk about ETN, Jags, all that, the pace from last week. I could see this more early week thoughts leaning on this more being a spot that people think is sneaky that flops where you only need a couple pieces. But the whole thing picks up steam as the week goes on. I could definitely see that. We'll see how it actually shakes out, but that's my first thoughts.
Trevor Lawrence stack. If everybody's playing ETN, Trevor Lawrence, and like you basically only got 4 guys I think you need to stack him with: Ridley, Zay, Kirk, and Ingram. You just kind of mix and match those, and then hope he has one of those 3 or 4 touchdown games. Right, run it back.
That's the other way to play it, or the Stroud side, or you can stack Trevor Lawrence with ETN. ETN's got 5 and 3 targets to start the season, so not what we usually expect from him. But if they're going to keep doing that, definitely fine with it. So there is ways to still use it. It just does. Early thoughts worry me that it could just end up being that spot. So we'll see how the week shakes out.
Mr. Pentrini, you won the tickets. All right. Tambo, how much time you got? I don't know what
all
time
day,
you need.
Baby. All day.
All right. Let's just keep powering through questions, and then hopefully this will make for a good video, or fucking Oklahoma internet doesn't go out again. Will you both ever do a showdown show together? Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Are we talking? I assume he's talking NFL showdown, so we're on an NFL show. Problem is, we both have such busy schedules. It's hard to ever do one. Maybe we could do one for the playoffs or something. It's just we're both locked down right now.
Something like that. We could do a 3-gamer or something like that. It'd be fun to do one of those shows.
Thanksgiving. Sure. I call dibs on Tambo for Thanksgiving. There you go, guys.
I like that show. I like that. That's my favorite. I have to live. Anyone who doesn't know, I'm Canadian, but I live vicariously through my American friends. Some years we even do like a Friendsgiving and cook up a turkey and everything and just celebrate the whole day.
You seem pretty American to me, other than the fact that you're so nice. That's the only thing to me that just screams Canadian. Just the guy's too nice. Americans, we're kind of a lot of asshole Americans. All right, powering through. People still here, true tryhards. Yes, all of you that are still here, you are tryhards. Let's see. Getting to more questions. Did YouTube steal my super chat? Oh yes, Nick, thank you for that super chat. I still see it up there. I appreciate you. And the fact that you did that with all this chaos, you're a man of the people, you motherfather. All right, thoughts on tight end Troutman with a big fat 0 last week? What do we have takes on Troutman from the Broncos?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, last week was just a weird game for them. I don't think that they're going to continue to air it out like that. So, I wouldn't overreact to that. And if you think that this game, which, by the way, it has a very nice total of 48.5, I think Troutman is a perfectly acceptable play. But trying to guess those Denver pass catchers when you got Judy and Sutton, hell, even that Brandon Johnson guy got quite a bit of run. And then you have Mims who's going to get rotated in. It's just getting really hard to predict it because Russell Wilson, I think, sucks. And then now I have to not only deal with a shitty quarterback, I got to deal with a shitty quarterback that's passing it to 5 different guys. Not ideal, Bob.
I will say this, Gesicki and Henry are eating up a little bit against that Miami defense. And now you go to this thing. First of all, Troutman flopped last week for people that played him. And also Smythe, who we talked about earlier, who makes sense there at 2,900. It's just $100 more. And you get to get Troutman in that same game. So definitely an interesting call out early. I don't hate that, to be honest.
All right. Thoughts on buying low on Christian Watson? If I get word that he is going to be playing and he is not going to be on a pitch count, I will be playing Christian Watson. I will be playing a fair amount because nobody is going to want to play him. It'll be very similar to what we saw with Amari Cooper last night. When people are nervous about somebody not getting a full workload or maybe re-aggravating an injury, you get true talents at discounted ownership. So if I'm getting word that Christian Watson's going to be out there, I'm in. What about you, Tambo?
Yeah, I'd be fine with it. 5,900, a really good price too. And like I said, I just don't think it would mess up some things for the love for the other guys like Reed and the talks that I mentioned earlier. But I definitely think if he's playing and it sounds like he's going to be in there, full time at least, then I'd have more interest.
All right, the Broncos team construction and division will force them to continue airing it out, right? I mean, I don't know. I feel like Javante's definitely the best player on their offense. It seems like at some point they're going to want to just start focusing on that guy as he gets more acclimated to the season. Do you think they're going to pass it around Tambo?
He's 5,500. Yeah, he's fine too. I guess the more I look at it, like that game looks pretty interesting too, because the other thing is they may just get forced into it. Because if Miami does their thing, I know someone in the chat earlier asked about like Surtain and some of this other stuff. Like, man, I think Miami can get these teams. And if that's the case and they get it rolling and that pace picks up, Russ is going to be trying to air it out, whether he does or not. The same thing as always, let Russ cook. And then people show him burning up the kitchen or whatever, because it's like he doesn't ever cook. It was kind of, see people going back to say it was kind of the best move, the way they didn't let him cook and just let him play that style, and it worked out. But yeah, for me, I think that's at least somewhat interesting, but Javonte still at 5,500 is there as well.
All right, thoughts on it being a Kyle Pitts week? I mean, as long as Desmond Ritter's the quarterback, I just don't know if I can ever play a pass catcher for the Falcons. I truly think he's the worst quarterback in the NFL and the worst fantasy quarterback in the NFL. That's my take. But I will say Kyle Pitts is a truly talented guy, and if Ritter could ever stop sucking, he might be good. Is there any chance you could play Pitts this week, Tambo?
3,900 too. Wow. I don't know, man. It's so tough. It's just the problem is like it's just one game ever with over 15 fantasy points in the last year and a half or whatever it's been. So it's really tough. And then, like last week, Drake London smashed for if he did the same thing this week at 5K, you're loving his 18.7 DraftKings points. But that literally feels like a ceiling now. Like that felt like monumental that he did that. And like I said, it's almost 20 points, so you'll take it. But it just doesn't feel like there's 20 plus there. It's 18.7 is like insane for him to get the job done on that. And I feel the same about Kyle Pitts. 3,900 makes it a little bit better. The onesie position in the tight end where you have to play one, maybe, but man, not as much high interest that I've got there.
Johnny Hunter says, who gets more targets from Tua this week? Well, I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill, but at some point teams have got to say we're just going to put a safety over this motherfather. So if Jalen Waddle is out, I think that it opens up a lot of value for guys like River Craycraft and for Durham Smythe in particular. Do you have anybody that you think would benefit from Waddle being out that I didn't already say, Tambo?
Yeah, I'd lean on Smythe, like I said earlier, but I guess Tyreek is just a freak, man. That's why they call him that. Like, he does the peace sign when he runs away. Like, I feel like he's good enough and somehow able to just stash that ball under his chin and give two peace signs to two guys trying to cover him. And that's going to be a thing he does someday because he's just so fast, so good. It doesn't matter. And again, very interesting this week. He's 9,000. Jefferson's 9,300. I definitely think there's something to that. Maybe last week people overreact. Oh, he only gave me 15 points. That won't be enough at 9K. You're right. But he still got 9 targets. He still had some other action in there. I think, again, you could just see another bounce back at him where it's 30 plus, no problem. And he's just needed. So I like Tyreek early in the week. Is it a good trade for Kenneth Walker and Olave for Chase and Brees? Ooh, that's a good question. Would you do that? I mean, I don't do much year long, but that seems like a very fair trade. Walker and Olave for Chase and Brees. I'm keeping the Chase side personally. Yeah, I think so too. I don't want to sell low on Chase after these first 2 weeks. I bet by the end of the year, he's still a top 3 wide receiver. That would be my guess. We've seen this with other teams, Buffalo, Kansas City in the past, things like that. Oh, Kelsey's no good, or, Diggs is not the same anymore and all that. And then they bounce back and have huge years. So again, got to monitor what's going on with Burrow, but that's why you're seeing these trade offers right now, is because there's probably somebody trying to pick him up knowing that Burrow is probably going to be all good here shortly. And then you'll be good to go. Even if he did have to miss a game or two with this calf thing, flaring up again, who knows? But it's still Chase. I'm still very interested in him. Someone said Barrios earlier. These are just again, super, 3,600, whatever, but it's just low floor ceiling combination. Like, he can get some targets if Waddle's out, maybe fit in your cash game lineups. I struggle to get to him in tournaments. That's where it would be. Yeah, because he just doesn't really offer you probably the 20 points you're going to need to take down a GBP. Is the problem with playing those punt wide and there's going to be other value plays. Like, it's week 3, there's injuries happening. There's going to be a lot of other ways that it's like, again, maybe a cash play. Sure, take your free targets. If Waddle's out, I'm saying that would make even more sense. But I don't know if you'll get the upside there. And then if you're stacking Tua, Tyreek is great, but then you could just do Tua and Tyreek as well. You don't have to put the third guy in to make it work. Is Minnesota LA too obvious of a game to target? I mean, it's going to, everybody knows that is going to be the most targeted game this week, but that doesn't mean that you don't play it. It just means that you just need to put on your creative hat and start saying, how can I get into this game, get pieces of this game, maybe a way that not everybody else is, not a way that nobody else is, just not a way that everybody else is, right? So I think that's the best way. You're gonna want some action in that game. I promise you that game is not going to be 7-3. Okay, there's going to be some points scored. They're going to move the ball, and there's going to be some guys have some big games that you're probably going to want to have access to. Yeah, there's going to be dudes like Parham, and there's going to be maybe one of Palmer or Johnson. You've got you mentioned, go back to the well on Joshua Kelly, flip it and stack the other side, pay up and have to pay more for Herbert, who's 7,500 over Cousins at 69. It's not going to be super sneaky. Other people are going to move that route as well as the week goes on, but it's just to say it. It's obviously easier to stack the side with Cousins when you've got Jefferson, who just makes so much sense and is going to drag him along, and then cheap options to go with it in guys like Osborne, Addison, or Hawkinson. So I definitely think that's a way you could get a little bit different. Hawkinson actually got priced up 6,500. So
yeah, he's really getting up into that elite pricing now, right? He's up there with Andrews and Kelsey type, like elite level pricing, which is never fun. It's so hard to get those guys in.
What if the stack is Cousins, Madison, Hawkinson, a la Daniel Jones, Barkley, and Waller, and you don't even need Jefferson, who's priced up, and you don't need any of those cheap options like Addison or Osborne, who people are going to try and fit into those double stacks.
Yeah, I mean, the only counter argument I give to that is I'm pretty sure Kirk Cousins only sees Justin Jefferson with every pass and then just adjusts from there. Like, I just don't see any way he doesn't get at least 12 targets. And the guy is so incredibly talented. It just feels like he's like 10 catches, 120 yards, and probably a touchdown every week. But I guess there is a path for it. But that guy's he's just cut different, right? Like, you're even seeing, like, Jamar Chase can have games where he doesn't do anything. Justin Jefferson just never seems to have a game where he does nothing. He's just another level
you see, like Tyreek last week, that's a little bit, set up now. He had 9 targets in that. But, like, again, Jefferson, not too many games. Like, last season, there was a run of 38, 32, 36, 33, and 34 within five games of the 6. That's the run he goes on. So it's just continuous with him. And he's the only guy I know that can get, or it seems like it, him and Tyreek maybe, but 100 yards in the first quarter. And it feels like it's actually a thing that's going to happen. And the bonus just hits. And you're like, yep, should have played that guy. So I like it.
All right, let's end on this last question here, and then, editor, go ahead and do the drawing while we answer this, our final one. Once again, I apologize for all the technical difficulties. No one's fault but myself. We don't fucking make excuses around here. I'll be better next time. Let's see. This is our final question. Tambo, I'll let you answer. Do you prefer a punt wide receiver over a punt running back?
Yeah, and I guess I saw this one. I like it, but it depends on how you're handling it, too, because a punt – to me, is like you're just taking a shot on it. At running back, I hate that because I always say this, like, Ian, you're hoping, like the Deuce Vaughn thing. Could it happen? Yes, absolutely. People are playing Pollard. You leverage it. You play a guy like him, go to Deuce Vaughn. I get it. But I would much rather at that point play a punt wide receiver who you can find cheap wide receivers on teams with injury placements, things like that, like Tank Dell last week. It wasn't huge news, but like no Noah Brown. He's $3,200. People are playing Nico Collins. You could have played both. But in the end, it was like if you only got to Tank Dell and took a shot on a punt wide receiver, there was at least reasoning there that made sense. Jaden Reed last week was $3,200 or $3,500, whatever he ended up being. My point was people were playing Musgrave for cheap. People were playing Dillon for the Jones injury. Jaden Reed was there. Watson was out. You had a situation where it made sense. Nobody was really on him that heavy. So I would always rather play a punt wide receiver in that situation, unless it's a cheap running back that's slotting in for an injury role, where then it's totally different. Then I'm just going to play them and move on because they get guaranteed volume for the most case, or for most part, and most cases they do pretty well.
All right, guys, I appreciate all of you being here. Go to Ship It Nation and use my code. If you're a fan of mine and you want to get content to other sports I'm not offering, go over to Ship It. I promise you, they're the best site out there that shares the most values with me. Use my code DGen75 to let them know that I sent you, and it gets you 10% off on any of their packages except the annual. So go check that out. I want to thank Tambo for being here. Tambo, do you have anything you want to tell the people before we get the fuck out of here?
I don't think so. There's no golf this week. So Ryder Cup, excited for that next week, is coming back. All the football content will be free. Shows will be out. If you guys are looking for me, you can find me on X, formerly Twitter, and find me there at Toe Tag and Tambo. I put up the tidbits every Friday. We already talked enough about Ship It Nation, but then we'll be back for the Thursday Night Football Showdown show on the Mayo Media Network, and then the Sunday main slate show early morning on the Mayo Media Network as well.
All right, I'm going to go buy a new motherfucking computer, so I will see all of you guys later so that I can get my fucking internet fixed. Once again, hey, I get tilted as balls too, right? It's not just fucking Isaiah Pacheco getting me 8 points on my best lineup that tilts my balls. It's also our fucking slapdick Oklahoma internet. I appreciate every single one of you that have stuck around. I will see you next time with a brand new fucking computer. Enjoy this outro.